Welcome back to another inspiring episode of The POW Factor, the podcast where we delve into strategies and stories from extraordinary women who are driving change and making an impact in their various communities and respective industries. I'm Jori Mundy, your host, and today we have the honor and privilege of featuring Theresa, who is the mayor of Elgin, Texas, and the president of the Executive Women in Texas Government Organization Board of Directors for this current year. Now, Theresa's career speaks for itself, having 35 years of dedicated service and experience in state government, and also being known as the person that gets it done, right? She has spearheaded initiatives that have expanded the betterment for women in the workplace, the Health and Human Services Commission Mother Friendly Program, and have also provided opportunities to expand internships for students. That is not all that she's done, but that is just a glitch of what she has been able to contribute and impact. And so I cannot wait to delve deeper into her story, into her journey, and into the community efforts and involvement and impact that she's been able to create throughout the course of her service career. So without any further ado, let's welcome Theresa to the show. Theresa, welcome to the show. We're so excited that you are here and that you joined us. And we are just going to bask in all of the information and the nuggets that you're going to share with us. And so this podcast is about the power of women. So celebrating the power of women. So as you think about a time or a moment in your experience throughout the course of your journey, when was there an undeniable sense of empowerment that you felt shine through for yourself? So the place where you felt the most powerful.
Well, actually, I think that was probably the night that I won mayor, because I was, you're waiting for the election results to come through and everybody's there. We had the little party and thing, and I'm going like, what happens if I don't win? What do I do? But when I came out to be the winner, and we're talking about 3 times over, it was like, oh my God, I'm the mayor. I'm now the mayor. And then it was even more special to me because I was the first Black mayor. So, it was like, oh my God, what can I do? What I do? So that was the time that I realized I am in power. This is the real deal. So, yeah.
So you say that, and well, I felt some goosebumps because I can't imagine how that must have felt when that announcement came through to say you won. Like, this is surreal. Wow, what an impact and a powerful and paramount moment just in your journey. And so, which leads me to the next thought, which is, of course, you've had a remarkable journey. You've had 35 years of experience in state government. You were also the president of the Executive Women in Texas Government Board of Directors for this current year. You are the Woman of the Year awardee for 2023. And I could go on and on and on, and, just about your accolades. So when I think about just all of that, and when you think about your remarkable journey, is there something that comes to you in terms of what has had the greatest impact? So was it people in your life, or was it supports, or was it opportunities that just, had that greatest impact for you to cultivate all this incredible success that you've had?
I would have to say that it was my upbringing. It was my home life. My parents both worked. They both were state employees. And so, hello, I went to the state eventually. But I think the upbringing is in the church was the one thing that kept me resilient and letting me know, excuse me, I lost my voice today, and letting me know that I could do anything. And my dad always said, you can do whatever you wanted to. You just got to put your mind to it. And so my mother was really big on education. And so she pushed that part. And my dad was one that he was a farmer. He came out later to be a barber. He went through a lot of things to get to where he was. And so I would look at his life. I look at my mother's life. She went through state government and she had to go through some things as well. And looking at their lives and how resilient they were, they never gave up. And it didn't matter what happened, they just never gave up. And so I had to set my sights on what do I want to do. I changed myself
Mm.
so many different times. That's why I've got so much stuff, because I'm still not grown. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. You know.
I love it so much. I
So
love
it's
it
like,
so
what do you
much.
do next? What are you getting to next? And all of my friends that are very close to me, they were not surprised when I went, and ran for mayor. Oh, that's her. That's just what she does. She does everything. And so, and I have one girlfriend that told me, when I die, I will still be trying to work toward what heaven should look like. And I'm like, see, but it was my home life. It was my parents, my grandmothers,
Mm,
because I was the little one. My brother's
mm,
deceased, but he was older than me, so I was the little kid that had to hang out, with grandmas, and they were both so significant in how their belief. You know, I know we're not on here to talk about
mm,
God, but that's what got me going. And I had one
mm,
grandmother who was real feisty, and she was on it. And then I had one that was very, very calm and would tell you you
mm,
can do anything with love. And the other grandmother was
mm.
like, okay, you need to stick up for yourself, and so when you melt the two together, and then with my parents being so strong at home, what else could you do? You know, uh,
Mm,
some things just weren't going to happen. You're going to be in this
mm,
walk this line, or wish you had
mm,
to walk the
mhm.
line. So I would have to say
I
it's home
love
life. It was my home life, and I
it's
and I
home
was
life.
very blessed to have both parents in church, and that's where the
Mm,
focus was. We had prayer at home on Tuesday nights. It was our prayer time at home. And so when I brought
mm,
my kids up, I did the same thing, because I knew that's how we made it. And we're still that way. My
yeah.
dad's 92, my mom's 87, and
And
yes, and both my grandmothers lived to be in their hundreds. And so I just like, this is what you got to do, and what do you give back? What's your legacy?
yeah, I that resonates so well. I feel like I am the same in you, where I have, the upbringing having a
Mm-hmm,
expectation of
mm-hmm,
excellence.
mm-hmm.
That's what the expectation was, and the
Right,
balance of
right.
like
Back
good cop,
off.
bad cop. and, and being able to say, okay, you can
Uh-huh,
have that
uh-huh.
calm, which my dad, in that sense, very calm,
Mm-hmm,
just, very
mm-hmm.
reserved. But my mom was very much, could be the bulldog in heels, so like
Right.
really just, but cultivating that sense of high expectation and the motivation and inspiration to affirm that you can do whatever it is that you
That's
want to
right.
do, and to follow
Mm-hmm,
through on
mm-hmm.
the things that you start. And so I resonate so much with that. I want to go back to
Mm-hmm.
one thing, your
Uh-huh.
dad, and because the unveiling of the
Yes,
mural
yes.
in in Elgin,
Mm-hmm.
Texas, which captures Black community leaders, and your father being one that's on that
Mm-hmm.
mural,
Mm-hmm.
uh, can you share how he's impacted specifically your leadership journey? Because you talked about he has shared how to
Mm-hmm.
behave,
Mm-hmm.
how to
Mm-hmm.
act, how do you conduct
Mm-hmm.
yourself, and just his lineage
Right,
of, and his experience of being a
right.
farmer and all of those things, and seeing that now he is visually
Mm-hmm.
someone that you can see that has had an impact in
Yeah.
Elgin and what that's meant to you.
So, God, I don't even know where to start to talk about Dad. He is one in a million. I have to tell you that. Um,
Mm,
he was,
mm,
gosh, back in the 60s, he started wanting to own his own business. And that was something that his father
mm,
instilled in him. And so,
mm,
Dad was started out, and we laugh about it, because I was up old enough to when he was going to get his barber's license, I would drill him on what he's supposed to do and how he's
mm,
supposed to do it. And I
mm,
was a little girl, and he says, "You
mm.
always told me no, that's not right, Dad." I'm going like, I don't even remember that, but okay, if I did it, I did it. Probably I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it at all. But but he has always been such a strong man, not physically and
Mm,
mentally. And it's not that he had a
mm,
college education, because he didn't. And so watching him become a part of the community, he was the first African American to own a actual building here in Elgin. The building that the mural is on belongs to my dad. And
Interesting.
it's not that
Interesting.
others didn't try, but he has sustained.
Mm,
And you know, that's a
mm.
lot. That says a lot coming up in this community,
Yeah.
knowing that it's his building is on that side of the street of the railroad track because we weren't allowed to go on the
Mm,
other side. And so there was so much because I was born during segregation. And so there was so
mm,
much um, animosity and adversity that he had to fight as a black man to become a business
mm,
owner. And that's why it was
mm,
so important to me to have his face on that building. It was,
mm,
you know, that will go down as my legacy, but my dad is my legacy. You know, he
mm,
served on so
mhm,
many different committees. He started off with the Parks Board. He was on the
mm,
Economic Development Board for over 25 years, and his just
mm,
service to the community. You know,
mm,
he's given back to them not only financially, but just being there as a
mm,
presence of a African American
mm,
business owner. Being a barber,
mm,
at one point in time, he was the only black barber in town. And then one of
mm,
his
mm,
friends that went to school with him, whatever, he became a barber too. But lasting, you know,
mm,
you're being able to last and survive the storms because you know there were storms that
mm,
came along, and
mm, mm,
he made it, you know. And it's really important because now my son is the barber there. At 92, my dad has given it up. Thank you. Hasn't given up the cows and horses and all that mess on the farm, but he has, you know, he's given that up. But the reason why he
mm,
did that was because he said, "My son, I was surprised. I didn't think he would get it, but he's an
mm,
excellent barber." So my dad felt, you know, he didn't have any problems about letting Terrence go in and start cutting hair because he was good. You know, he said, "I didn't think that boy
mm,
had it in
mm,
him, but he did." So of course he will become the full owner. You know, if the demise of my father, he'll
mm,
that's his barbershop. And so that's part of the
mm,
legacy that my dad has handed down through two
mm,
generations. Because I skipped my brother. My brother didn't want to do it, but my
mm,
son picked it up. And so who knows how far down that will
mm,
go. He has two sons of his own. One of them may decide they want to do it. You know, who knows? And
mm,
so
mm,
just being so forthright. My dad's a deacon of the church. He's been there for forever. And he's always
mm,
stood strong. But the one thing my dad has always done is that he stood for what was right. So the adversity that he had to deal with, if he was on the right side, he'd go and say, "Pray about it." And so the fact
mm,
that he
mm,
always told me, pray about it. And that prayer life, you know, regardless of what was going on, it was about the prayer life. And this is how he got through it. And
mm,
my when my brother passed away,
mm,
it was really kind of, you know, it hurt because my dad was the one who found him. And so
mm,
not knowing how can he get through that? That's a son, you know, that's his son,
mm,
and he's gone. And I admired my dad. Now I'm sure when he was at home, he probably shedded his tears, you know, and the whole bit
mm,
behind the closed door. But as he went
mm,
out into the public, he never changed. You know, it was the same. He
mm,
stood strong through that. And
mm,
after
mm,
that, he had to have a pacemaker put in a year after my brother passed
mm,
away. And he literally died in
mm.
my car as I was trying to get him to a doctor's appointment. And he went
Oh,
out, and I saw that. And if I tell you that didn't build my
mm,
resilience real quick, fast, in a hurry,
mm,
and I and when
mm,
I hit him in the chest, I'm going like, "Oh my God!" And I just automatically, because I'm a respiratory therapist when I first went to school, and so my training started coming back to me. And yeah,
jack of
yeah,
all
right,
trades.
and a master of none. But once, but once I saw what was happening, I looked over and I went, "Oh my God, Daddy!" and gave him one of those big jolts with my fist, and he did that number, and I said, Daddy, are you okay? Why are you still sitting in the same spot? We supposed to be going over to okay, Daddy, I'm going to get you there as quickly as I can.
No.
And if I tell you Kyle has too many seating clinics and things you can go to, if I had to literally stop and said, God, guide my car. Because we kept going to one and we go to another one, and it still was not the right doctor's office. And when that happened, I said, God, please, you have got to get me to where I'm supposed to be. And sure enough, that car just started going across 35, and we went directly to the doctor's office where it was supposed to be. And once we got there, he had another episode, and they said, oh, we know what's going on. And they took care of him right away. But that was just God, And the fact that you're not going to go until God is ready for you. And he had some more stuff to do. And I think number one was for him to see his baby girl become the mayor of a city that obviously really wouldn't have accepted it before, We just celebrated our 150th sesquicentennial, believe I can say that word, our 150 years a couple of years ago. And that's right when I became mayor. So we did a time capsule. And even though in 50 years when it's opened, I probably will not be around, but my grandchildren will be there, and they'll be able to say, ooh, that was my Nana. My Nana was the mayor, and that's part of my legacy. So now at 64, I'm focused on what will be my legacy. What will I leave?
What will be your legacy? And I've heard so much from what you shared. I've heard sustainability, I've heard resilience, I've heard, the power of, your spiritual life and how that's guided you, and how that high expectation, and also being able to see a clear representation of a strong, powerful, resilient man that's set, an
Right.
expectation and a lineage of excellence for you and, your legacy and generations to come. That is, wow. I mean, it speaks for itself, because it's almost like I've heard you talk about coming full circle three different times in three different ways, just from your experience. And so I love that, which spurs me to my next thought about adversity, because you've talked about adversity also. And of course, adversity can really strengthen us and help us to thrive. Is there a time that you can think about where you've had an adverse situation that has helped cultivate you to thrive even more? And maybe it's one of those moments that you've mentioned, but when you think about this moment for me, when I was going through this situation, from there, I that was it for me, and I moved forward in my career in such successful strides.
So I think it's not one thing in my
Hmm.
life. It's
Hmm.
been several.
Hmm.
But if I wanted
Hmm.
to pinpoint out, I began, and my career is really crazy because I began as a clerk at the state. And that was back in 78 when I first graduated. That was the first job I had. I wanted to make for sure I was ready for college. I wasn't quite sure. And so I made all kinds of steps before I actually went to college. And one of the things, I ended up getting an associate degree in science for respiratory therapy. My dad wanted me to be a nurse. I should have listened to him, but I didn't. So I took what I thought was the short route and became a respiratory therapist. And as time went on, life takes over. And my life took over. Several things happened in our family. My brother was in a almost near death, fatal car accident. And at that point in time, I had gone to Texas State and was in the respiratory therapy classes and stuff. And I dropped out to take care of him because he needed somebody there. And there was just the two of us. So, sister takes off and I do that. Well, the determination of going back is really, once you've gotten
Mm.
out and I got married while I was out. I don't know why, but anyway,
Mm.
something told me that I should get married at this point in my life. But anyway, so there were a lot of things that kind of put my education on the back burner instead of
Mm.
going forward as I should have. And
Mm.
so all I had was the
Mm.
associate degree. And um,
Mm.
I worked at Brackenridge. It's no longer Brackenridge. They've done all kinds of things to it. It's now Dale. But anyway, it was Brackenridge Hospital on 15th Street back in those days.
Mm.
And I worked as a respiratory therapy, met a man and decided, oh, I want him. And so we got married. And
I love it so
meanwhile,
much.
I still haven't gone past that associate degree. And
Mm.
after I decided, well, I lost my first baby. I lost while I was running to a code.
Mm.
And I had been working like
Mm.
16 hours and that whole bit. And I thought, okay, maybe this isn't right for me. And losing the baby was a
Mm.
kickback. I'm going like, okay, maybe I don't need to be
Mm.
a respiratory therapist,
Mm.
And so I went to
Mm.
work back to work for the state. And it was ironic
Mm.
because it was in the same area that I was in before. And I worked there
Mm.
for like 4 or 5 years. But during this time, it was when I was like, okay, what do I do? And I'm realizing, okay, I don't want to be stuck right here for the rest of my life.
Mm.
And so what can I do? And as you go
Mm.
and apply for positions and that kind of thing, it's like, okay, I can't get this because I don't have this and I don't have that. And so, make a long story short, I ended up going to a different state agency, and I had a boss who I still love today. Um, and she was very clear with me, and she says, I don't care if you get a degree in BS, you get a degree.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay, okay.
Mm.
And she said, I will help you. I will, I'll give you some time off and whatever you need, I will be there for you.
Mm.
And I was like,
Mm.
okay. So I started then, but of course, life, I didn't finish. I started and stopped, started and stopped, started and stopped. Babies came in
Mhm.
between the starting and stopping.
Mm.
And so when I
Mhm.
actually got really serious, it was after both my
Mm.
kids were up and everybody was in college at one time. Now, my children are 3.5 years apart. I had
Mm.
kind of adopted one of their friends because he was in a home life that
Mm.
wasn't the best for him. So, my
Mm.
daughter was in college. I had put him in college. I had gone back to school, and my son was about to
Mm.
graduate to go to barber school. All of
Mm.
that was going on, and I made it. That was the time when I don't remember a time worse in my life that
Mm.
it was so full. And now it's like, okay, it wasn't a big deal, but going through that
Mm.
storm, it was a
Mm.
bit much. I was
Mm.
divorced by then. I was a single mom raising the
Mm.
kids, doing what
Mm.
I do, working,
Mm.
and doing everything else, and we made it through. And when I look back on it
Mm.
now, that built me. That built me up. That showed
Mm.
me what
Mm.
resilience was like. That showed me how you have to bounce back, how you have to pray your way
Mm.
through and do what you
Mm.
need to do. And you can do that. So I learned
Mm.
from that is that every obstacle that I come upon, every adversity, there is a lesson in it. And I have to ask God, what lesson do I learn today? What is it that you want me to
Mm.
learn from this? And the older I've gotten, the more, I guess, resilient I've become. Because now it's
Mm.
okay, okay, what's the lesson today? If something comes up, okay, what is it you want me to know? And it's very easy for me to say
Mm.
that now. It wasn't back
Mm.
then. But the more I do it,
Mm.
the easier it becomes. And so I look
Mm.
at adversity as how to become more resilient, how to build yourself up,
Mm.
how to build your self-esteem
Mm.
up. Because once you go through it, you're like, oh yeah, I got it. And it might have been, and it was probably hell going through it, but oh, I got it now. I got it now. So it doesn't threaten me anymore as much as it did before,
Mm,
because I know that on the other side it's gonna be all right.
it's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
okay. Yeah. And so I once again the resilience that has come through, and I heard that even with the starting and the
Mm-hmm.
stopping, you continue to keep
Right.
going. So, throughout the course of our lives, specifically as
Mm-hmm.
professional
Mm-hmm.
women, because of course, there are
Right.
clocks in our
Right.
minds, and sometimes society puts those clocks
Mm-hmm.
on. Well, you've got to do this, and you've got to finish this by this time, and you've got to make sure that you are successful by this
Mm-hmm.
age,
Mm-hmm.
by whatever the society can, whatever
Right.
society says
Right.
is
Right.
success. And so when you think about that, I just see the journey once again that's coming through of
Mm-hmm.
sustainability, that it
Mm-hmm.
seemed like that foundation from your
Right.
family and your
Right.
father, and in recognizing that you can
Mm-hmm.
continue to
Mm-hmm.
thrive and continue to start and stop and continue to
Right.
move forward until you get to
Mm-hmm.
the finish
Mm-hmm.
line. So that could mean if you are aspiring for a certain
Right.
career or a certain
Mm-hmm.
role, and there are some different
Right.
detours in
Right.
your journey that cause you to
Mm-hmm.
have to maybe take
Mm-hmm.
care of someone, like you have to take
Mm-hmm.
care of, or having
Mm-hmm.
children, or whatever the case may be, but that you continue to follow through in that
That's right.
pursuit with those
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
detours. And so the other thing you talked about was balancing, and I want to get into that because of course that was then, and, and now you are the mayor of Elgin
Mm-hmm.
and the president of Executive Women in Texas Government. And I've just heard about your story with your family and your children. And what does balance look like? What how are you doing all these things, and how are you cultivating that success and managing all of your
Well,
responsibilities?
everybody laughs because I always told them that I could never be mayor unless I was retired. So when I retired in
Mm,
21, it was like okay,
mhm,
you're going to run now, you're going to run now, you're going to run now. I just retired. I
mm,
want to sleep. I don't want
mm,
to have to get up and go. So once again, I had to. And now, actually, when I
mm,
first started all this, I was a mess because it was like, okay, I got to pick the
mm,
kids up from school, and I'm doing this, and doing that. I'm going
mm,
like, okay, Lord. And everybody, of course, wanted me to come to their meeting. Can you come talk to us here? Can you come talk
mm.
to us there? And I'm like, oh my God, what in the world? What have I gotten into?
The woman of the
Yeah, what have
hour.
I gotten into? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then my
Mm,
children wanted me to put a guilt trip on me, and I know that wasn't what they really wanted to do. That, Mama, you were never at home with us. I said, yeah, but I made it to all your stuff. I might not have been at home because my
mm,
mother kept them for me while I was, working and doing this, that, and the other. I said, but I never missed any of y'all's events.
mm,
I said, so
mm,
yeah, but we didn't care about that. We wanted you at home with us. I went, okay, just make me feel bad now. But so
mm,
that let me know I didn't do real well, even back then, because I felt
mm,
like if I was there at their events, that's cool. That's what they wanted, their mom to show up for that. I thought I
mm,
was doing good.
mm,
But I've
mm,
learned to ask people what they want, what they expect.
mm,
Expectations are something that, oh my gosh, how do I put it? It's something that you live by, but you don't know you live by it,
mm,
unless you
mhm,
put that first and most upfront.
mm,
And so I've learned now that, okay, what are the expectations? What are my expectations of being mayor? What are the expectations of being president of
mm,
BWTG? What expectations are for
mm,
my grandchildren? My kids, I told them, y'all
mm.
don't count no more because y'all had your chance. And then I live next door to my parents, and I so what
Mm,
is their expectation? So I had to sit down and
mm,
plan out all the expectations that are in my life, and then my doctor
mm.
has his own expectations. so, so I don't know if I can.
He's I get to say.
And I'm like, I don't know if I can fit y'all all in. I don't know if you could. because I'm a diabetic, unfortunately. So I have multiple doctors, and it's like I don't know if I can
Mm-hmm.
put y'all in. And some of them have told me that, well, if you don't put us in, we won't have to worry about you. And I was like, that was just rude. That was so rude. But it was an eye opener, though, that Teresa,
It wasn't.
you
Yeah.
need to give
Mm.
yourself some time. You need to put your expectation in there
Mm.
for you. So of course, they wanted me to sleep more, and I was only doing 2 to 4 hours anyway. So if I give myself 5, I've done better. And so,
Yeah.
so I'm focusing on 5 hours of sleep. I know I need more,
Okay.
but I get up
Okay.
early though, so that I can talk to God, I
Mm.
can meditate, I can pray, I can get my day
Mm.
set, so that no matter what
Mm.
comes, God knows He's supposed to already be there helping me. I've already talked to Him and told Him,
Mm.
gave Him His assignment for the day, and so
Mhm.
and it's working. It's like, okay, I know
Mhm.
where my expectations are. I know what I got to do. Now, have I missed some meetings? Have I missed some things because my calendar's too full? Yeah. And
Mhm.
so I'm
Mhm.
learning
Mhm.
now to prioritize what I've really got to go do and what I don't have to go do. Because at first I think I got to be everywhere. If they want me, I got to be there. I got to be there. I got to be there.
Mm.
But that's not the case. Can we reschedule, or
Mm.
can I come to your next meeting,
Mm.
to talk to you? It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be right there and right then. And so that I've gotten through my head finally, so that I can manage my calendar. Because at first it was just like, whoo,
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't know if this was what I should have been doing.
So, so two things I heard you say from just your experience and learning the things that worked for you, or three things. You talked about
Mhm,
expectations and making sure that those are driving life.
mhm,
And then you talked about space for yourself. And I feel like that is so important, that especially for professional
mhm,
women, because of course there's pressure to do maybe so many
right.
different things, but how important it is when you're trying to manage the various
Mhm,
aspects
mhm,
of your life, that you're putting yourself first or as a
right.
priority, which you talked
Mhm,
about also
mhm,
in setting priorities. So three things, which is expectations, priorities, and making sure that you're carving space so that you are giving yourself what you need to be able to
mhm,
continue
mhm.
running whatever it is that
Right,
you're running.
right.
Yeah. And I have another question that I want to ask, and it's reflecting on your experience. So I love this question. If you could go back to your younger
Ah,
self, if you could go back to your younger self and give them a synopsis on how you can avert any pitfalls, as you know, in your career journey to climb to all of the successes that you've had, what would you tell her? What would you tell her today and say, hey, you should avoid this, or don't do this, or I would advise you to do this?
I thought about that question because you did give it to me, and I have two different sides. One, I would probably say
Hmm.
don't do anything different, because God allowed you to go through
Mm.
those challenges to make you who you are today. And I don't know,
Mm.
everybody always says hindsight is 2020. Well, on some things you're right. You're very right about that. But would I be the same resilient person that I am
Mm.
now? Would I be mayor
Mm.
now? Would I have been
Mm.
president now
Mm.
had I not gone through those, I call them stepping stones in my life.
Mm.
When I was in high school, I was voted most likely to succeed. I guess they were right because I'm doing all kinds of stuff.
Someone had a
Yeah, they had a
vision.
vision. Everybody with me had a vision, and my classmates
Mm.
now. We had our 40th reunion last year, and nobody
Mm.
was
Mm.
surprised. Everybody said, "Oh yeah, we figured that. Yeah,
Mm.
that's." So, and so the fact that even as a young child, I was
Mm.
building up my resiliency without knowing it. Because when things didn't go right in school, my mom used to say, "You try to be too perfect, you get mad." I was the first black drum major, and that was so important to me. And when the band didn't do what I wanted them to do, or there was a section of band, I would come home so angry, so mad. I was crying, and my mom said,
Mm.
"What's wrong with you? Why are you doing that?" Daddy, do what I do, doing that number. And she would look at me and just shake her head and say, "Go
Mm.
to bed, girl, and get up in the morning and start all over." You know? But I was into that mode of you gotta succeed, you gotta be this, you got to, and it got to. I would rewrite
Mm.
papers 3 or 4 times, if there was any mistake. I would not cross over. I
Mm.
would not. We couldn't do that. I had to rewrite. I may have some OCD. I don't know, but anyway, it had to be right. If the ink messed up,
Mm.
I threw away a pen and got me a new pen. I mean, just crazy. When I look back, crazy stuff.
Mm.
But then on the other side,
Mm.
you look at some of those that you could have avoided that would
Mm.
have made things different for you. And I'll tell you a quick story. Along the line with the
Mm.
drum major, that was my junior
Mm.
year in high school, and everybody had blown my head up. Ooh, look at it! Remember, you know how you get your head blown up, and and mine was obviously big, okay, because when it came time for me to compete again to be drum major,
Mm.
I didn't really practice. I thought I had this because
Mm.
I'm the drum major
Mm.
already. I've been doing it. I got this.
Mm.
Got to tryouts, and in the middle of my routine, I forgot. So I continued and
Mm.
made up a routine for the last part of it. And I knew I had. I mean, you've already messed up. So I was always
Mhm.
one, and I play piano, and I was always told, if you miss a note, don't stop. You keep going. You don't go and, because
Mm.
that was the
Mhm.
other thing. When I was learning how to play the piano, if I messed up, I started all over again. My teacher was just
Mm.
crazy. She was just like, why do you keep doing that? So I'm going like, because I done messed up. You can't play for a choir if you stop every time you miss a note. I
Mhm.
learned that. I finally learned that. But back to the drum major story, though. I did not get drum major my senior year. I was crushed. I was almost at the point of,
Mm.
I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to, because I was so embarrassed.
Mm.
And the
Mm.
reason
Mm.
why I was so embarrassed, because the person who got it was not the best qualified. I was. And so I spent my senior year teaching her. Now, if that didn't tell you how people stepped on my toes, I was like, and I couldn't do a thing in the world about it because I did it. That was my fault. I should have been
Mm.
practicing, but
Mm. So what I'm picking up from that is that we can experience our own shining light, whatever it is, our gifts that we practice and that we become exceptional at, and that even as we develop our skills and even as we are successful in our own right in terms of building those
mm-hmm,
abilities and those skill sets, that we've got to never get too arrogant, right? And to really focus on continuing to find ways to
mm-hmm,
enhance that
mm-hmm,
skill, whether it's a natural ability that you have, whether it's a skill that you've, started as a beginner
mm-hmm,
with and you've cultivated over the
mm-hmm,
time, but to just really continue to be
mm-hmm,
grateful for
mm-hmm.
that and take good
Right,
care
right,
of it and
right,
continuing to, yeah,
right.
that's Wha yeah, that's a great story.
That's a,
Oh, man, that I can imagine senior year how you
oh
felt.
God.
I cannot imagine that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you also said something else when you were saying you were talking about your mom and how you were upset. You came home crying and she was saying, just go to sleep and start over. And I resonate so much with that. And I think throughout the course of just my journey, we are going to have
Mm-hmm,
days that are just tough
mm-hmm,
days. And one of the things that I know has gotten me through is if I've had a fatal mistake a day or I feel like something has happened my mantra has been like, go to sleep, start over
Okay.
the next day, clean
Mm-hmm.
slate, learn from that lesson, but continue
Right.
to move forward.
Right.
And I feel like that's what your
Mm-hmm.
mom,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Right.
instilled, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm hearing. And that's so important, especially, for women, because sometimes being really hard and
Mm-hmm.
critical, and I think just everyone in general can be very
Yes.
self-critical, and recognizing that you can earn that
Mm-hmm.
lesson and experience it, and then start a new chapter
That's
the
right.
next day, or turn
Right.
the page the
Right.
next day, so that those things aren't they're
Mm-hmm.
not harboring,
Mm-hmm.
because mistakes happen, and they help to cultivate us to be
Yeah.
stronger and better, and
Yeah.
all of those things. So I have another question on just leadership, and how you throughout your journey now get more, or how do you um what am I trying to say? How is your continuous growth and learning
Mm-hmm.
essential to your leadership? And how do you stay informed about emerging trends and best practices in leadership and governance?
So how I stay informed is that I read a lot. It's a good thing I like to read.
Mm,
And there's always new
mm,
things coming out. When I got my master's, I have a master's in health education. And so I knew
mm,
that that's something that I would never be able to leave because things
mm,
change in medical field every day. There's something new, there's
mm,
something going on. So as becoming a leader, I've had to
mm,
go read all kinds of books being the mayor because I was like, what do I do now?
mhm,
And so
mhm,
it's a continuation of education. You can never stop learning.
mm,
So every day
mm,
there's something that I can pick up, whether it's going to be on the mayor's side or whether it's going to be, and I shouldn't say the leadership side
mm,
because the mayor is the
mm.
leader. And,
Yeah.
the biggest thing though, I think I have really tried to work on is being able to fill out who I'm working with. You got to know, you got to
Mm,
know your audience. You got to know
mm,
who you're working with. You got to know your team. You got to know people who are
mm,
coming from the outside, bringing things in.
mm,
Um, you need to know
mm,
your citizenship, that are here, people who are here. Who are they?
mm,
What do they want? And it's good
mm,
because I've lived here all my life. So I have actually grown
mm,
up with people here. We have a lot of growth going
mm,
on. So there's newcomers. So the newcomers I have to
mm,
learn, but the ones who are your
mm,
basic Elganites have been here all their life, and so have I. So they all know me.
mm,
But I think
mm,
as keeping up with what's going on, educating yourself, uh, and making for
mm,
sure that you understand what's going on.
mm,
And we're talking about
mm,
for me, it's the entire world because
mm,
everything out there affects us and we don't pay attention to it. And that's one
mm,
of the
mm,
things that I've learned as being a mayor. It's just not Elgin, it's all the counties around Bastrop County. One may do
mm,
something and it's going to affect how things go in your county. And if you're not watching, looking, and listening and trying to find out what's going on, then you're going to be on the back end of stuff going on.
mm,
And I've always liked to be
mm,
the trailblazer.
mhm,
I got that
mhm.
something somewhere.
Obviously, you are. Obviously,
So
you are.
I
In
want to
many.
know and do before y'all know and do. so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's constant. It's a constant thing that I have to go look. Okay, let me go read and see what's going on over here. Let me go read over here. Let me go read over here. So it's a constant
Mm,
education of what it is you want.
mm,
Now, if you're going to be not the mayor and just the leader of Executive Women in Texas,
mm,
you want to
mhm,
know, provide insight of where an organization such as that, how we can improve.
mm,
Where do we go from here? We
mm,
can't just stay where we were 20 years ago. It has to
mm,
be move
mm,
forward to something else. And so I spend time on not telling them what to do, but on, we just had a retreat in
mm,
February. Where do we want to go? What did we see
mm,
last year or year before? There's
mm,
members who are
mm,
continuing to be in there. How do we go back and get the members who have fallen off? Maybe their career has
mm,
changed and they don't see the need anymore. Or maybe they decided they don't want to be a manager or they don't want to be a leader in their, in their organization. And so It's a lot of talking, talking and
Yeah.
listening more than talking, but listening and trying to
Right.
see, okay.
Mm,
And I've been blessed in that I can listen to people and be able to throw
mm,
out, well, what about this? Why won't y'all go try that then?
mm,
It's fine. Let's try it and see
mm,
what happens.
mm,
If it doesn't work, we'll pull it
mm,
back and we won't do it again, you know? And I think
mm,
that's a
mm,
part of leadership that you can just get people to follow. You know, if no one's following you, you're
mm,
not a leader. If no one's
mm,
listening to you, you're not a leader. And I think
mm,
that letting people voice their opinions, let them try their
mm,
ideas, is one
mm,
way to let them know, oh, she's cool. She's, you know, she'll listen to us. We don't have a problem. And
mm,
that's one of the
mm,
best things I think I can do is listen to who I'm
mm,
working with to find out who it is, how it is, and how we can move forward.
mm. Beautiful, beautiful. And you you talked about leadership and just how to be a more effective leader,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, the listening and allowing your staff or the individuals that you lead to implement decisions. And then also just how to look forward for the
Mm-hmm.
growth and the innovation of the organizations that you're managing. And one of the things I want to ask that's actually pivoting a bit, but in alignment is as we talk to our audience, right, of aspiring women leaders who either want to just get to the next level or get to the highest level of, becoming a C-suite executive or
Mm-hmm.
mayor, or, they have those pursuits to be like a
Mm-hmm.
trailblazer, like
Mm-hmm.
um, what advice would you give to them, as they're in their respective fields to help them navigate to get to where they want to go? So, that could mean they want to be mayor. That could mean they want to be, a
Mm-hmm.
chief. They want to be a CEO. What could you share with them based on your experience that might help them navigate to
So
get
I would
them?
say, first of all, know yourself, know your limitations,
Mm,
overcome those limitations. Find out if it's
mm,
a chief that you want to be or if it's a mayor that you want to be. Find out what that is
mm,
about before you get into it. And know
mm,
that you must be focused, you must be disciplined,
mm,
and you have to be
mm,
resilient. Those things are a
mm,
must for anyone who wants to go up in their career, regardless of what it is. And then, and then you
mm,
need to know your job. You know, you need to know what that job
mm,
is. And you know, one of the things that I think that has been crazy to me, and I think that's just what has happened uh, through society, becoming a manager, they would choose whoever was doing the best in their job. You
mm,
know, if I were an admin, then okay, I'm the best admin. So you would make me
mm,
supervisor over all the admins because I'm best at my job.
mm,
Now that works
mm,
when you're in that same position. But if you
mhm,
are doing a different position and you're doing it well, it does not mean that I can promote you to a supervisor in something
mm,
else and you continue to do that well. Now you now you may,
mm,
I'm not saying you can't because it happens.
mm,
I've watched it
mhm,
through my 35 years of state government. I've watched it.
mhm,
But the best and the way to get success is to get
mm,
someone who has those characteristics of a good manager, who has those
mm,
characteristics of a good leader. Because I
mm,
have worked for many a director, and the
mm,
reason why I was chosen was because they knew they could count on my productivity. They knew they could
mm,
count on my decision making. They knew they could
mm,
count
mm,
on if I needed something, she was going to be there for it. Most managers or directors will choose someone that can fill the gap because they're not going to know everything. They happen to
mm,
be the
mm,
director because maybe their education or you know what have you.
mm,
But if
mhm,
you're the person who's working on the front line, you know what's going
mm,
on. You know what's happening. So you can make that effective PowerPoint presentation for your director who can't do PowerPoint, or you can create an Excel document for that director who doesn't know Excel, but they can point and say, this is this, and this is this, because you will have put in, they can trust that you will have put in the right formulas, that you will have put in the right numbers. So they put people around them who know the job, because they're going to be the coordinator or the facilitator of whatever you're doing, but they're not going to be the people doing the meat of the job. And so if once I believe that you should know all aspects to be a true effective leader. I'm not going to tell you to go do an Excel document if I don't know how to do it myself. I'm not going to ask you to go and create uh, a PowerPoint presentation and you've never seen PowerPoint in your life, you know? And that's where I get to be the trailblazer, because I'm going to know it. You know, I've watched my directors, I watch what they do, some good, some bad. So I know what to do and what not to do, because I watched you and that didn't work. So when you're when you're trying to go up that ladder, make for sure you're very aware of what's going on in that organization. You may find out that's not the organization that you thought it was, and you don't want to be a part of that. And you want to leave and go be a manager somewhere else, or be a leader somewhere else. One of the things I think about is when we were kids, we used to play a game called Follow the Leader, and you'd be going all over everywhere, and I'm going, where are they going over there? We're not doing that. So when it was my turn to be the leader, we would go somewhere where either it was the swings and we could go play on the swings, or we go and look at the flowers or so. It had to be productive. It wasn't that you were just walking around following behind somebody. That was crazy. But my parents say I've been like this all my life. What can I say? But but if you want to be there, make it so that they cannot do without you. And that means you may have to do a whole lot of background work or whatever it takes to do that. You make for sure that you are unreplaceable, because everybody can be replaced. But if they have to come and replace you, make it hurt.
So become invaluable
Yes.
to that organization and become the
Yes.
expert and
Mm-hmm.
cultivate the characteristics and leadership
Right.
skills that would
Mm-hmm.
make you a great and
Mm-hmm.
effective leader.
Yep. Yep.
Wow. Teresa, thank you,
You're
thank you,
welcome.
thank
You're
you. I have
welcome.
gotten so much from just your stories, from the insight that you've shared, from the impact of what you've done, and just with all of the things that you've been doing. And I just know I am so gracious and hopeful that the audience got so much
Yeah.
that I got from this conversation. So
You're
thank you so
welcome.
much
You're
for
welcome.
joining
Thank
us
you for thinking
today.
about me.
What an inspiring and powerful conversation. Just hearing the various stories from Teresa and learning about the impact that she's had throughout the course of her leadership journey and the successes that she's cultivated. I hope that you got a lot of value and insight that you can use on your leadership journey. And until next time, remember to embrace your POW factor and continue to keep dominating as the powerhouse women that you are. I'm Jori Mundy. Remember to stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep leading with purpose.